usually when we are looking for love or looking for happiness, there is a subtle resistance to what is. And we are resisting while thinking that what I have right now is not it. It has to be something better out there, something much, nicer and bigger and more successful, or something other than right now what I have. While, imagining this, there is always lacking feeling of absence. Yeah. This very feeling of absence is creating suffering.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Purple Stars podcast. My name is Sarah. I am your host, and today's guest is one of the most influential Zen Buddhist teachers in the world. He's a best-selling author and such a loving soul. Please welcome Haemin Sunim.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for inviting me.
As I shared earlier, I'm so thrilled to have you on the show. I've been following you, your teachings, your wisdoms for so many years. I actually remember many years ago, your book, The Things You Can Only See When You're Slowing Down, I came across it in London. And it was at the most perfect time, which I guess is always, that's how life is, because I had so much on the plate. I was always on the go, rushing from A to B. And in London, as you can imagine, is also like a really fast pace. And the version I got had a really nice blue cover. And it just I was like, just by the title, I thought, oh, wow, I feel so called to take a breath and to buy the book. And after I read the book, I've been following you on Instagram. And then when I heard you also published recently another book, I thought, you know what, let me reach out to him and see if he wants to come on the podcast. And then when you replied that you were happy, I was so thrilled. And I prepared a lot of questions. And my very first one is, for those who don't know you yet, could you please share the story of your journey and what has led you become the amazing person you are today?
Oh, thank you. Thank you for your generous introductions. My name is Haemin Sunim, and Sunim means monk in Korean language. I was born and raised in South Korea, and I went to the US when I was 18, and thinking that maybe when I go to the US, that's where I'll discover happiness. That's where the happiness will go. And then I was in California and finishing up my bachelor degree in religious studies, because I was really, into the meaning of life. Why am I here? What's the purpose? All of those philosophical questions. So as I was finishing up my bachelor degree at UC Berkeley at the time, I thought maybe the happiness is not in California, but maybe in East Coast, places like New York or Boston. That's where the real deal is, I remember, walking up to the Berkeley piers, looking at the San Francisco proper, and I was thinking, oh man, maybe, New York is where I need to go. So I kept on searching for happiness. And then I even went on and became a monastics. And while imagining that, maybe in a Buddhist monastery, that's where I can find happiness or ultimate meaning of life. But then I realized that what I've been looking for is right here, right now. That's the most amazing discovery. And subsequently, I also wrote a book, The Things You Can See Only When You Slow Down. And that book became a huge hit in Korea and beyond. It did very well in the UK, in the Netherlands and Brazil, Indonesia, Germany. So
You're being very humble. It's been great everywhere in the world.
And So I was very happy to be able to communicate with readers and offer whatever small knowledge and wisdom I can share.
Small knowledge and wisdom. I love how you say this. I wonder if you call your wisdom small, like what is ours? I wonder when it comes to happiness, I love actually how you explained your journey, because it's something that we, like most of us, experience throughout life, that we think happiness is on the East Coast. Happiness is once we lose the weight. Happiness is there once we find that dream partner, that dream job. You know, like we always attach it to something on the outside, whilst happiness is only something we can find and cultivate on the inside. So I'm very, very grateful that you talked about this also as a reminder. And you said your book has been doing really well. And you've also wrote in your book the things you can only see when you're slowing down. Many people started sending me messages not only to ask advice, but also to express appreciation and gratitude. And I still remember a young mother who had lost her husband in a car accident and sent me a heartfelt thank you note for saving her from committing suicide, saying she never thought about loving herself because love for her always meant giving it to someone else. And when I read that, it really hit me, because I had this picture in front of me, a woman that's pouring out so much love. And I guess that her husband was one of the lucky people to receive a lot of this love, and how she must have felt after he passed away, that she wanted to give a lot of love, but she couldn't. And then at the same time, that love was kind of coming back to her, because I'm a big believer that, and you also wrote that in your book, pain, in your latest book, pain teach life lessons, pleasure doesn't. Pain teaches life lesson, pleasure doesn't. And I am a big believer in that too, that our pain, when we take the time to move through it, really turns into purpose. And it has a life lesson in it. And in case of her, the loss became a catalyst. And can we talk about this? Because this woman, I don't even know her, but it's just something that really resonated with me very deeply.
Right. Especially, women, I noticed that they are self-sacrificing. They are very good at self-sacrificing and giving so much love and attentions to other people while neglecting their own needs. And I think it was for her, love meant just giving up something, always giving it to somebody else. But in fact, what we need to come back to and recognize is love that we are seeking is what we are. Just let me repeat. Love that we are seeking is what we are. Rather than trying to give ourselves love, we need to recognize our true essence is love, which is already there. Yeah. It's just that we are constantly looking out and trying to either to give or to receive. We are just imagining that it is actually it's not here. You see what I mean? Yeah. So we have to just subtly recognize maybe what I've been looking for, I already have it with me. And that is the very essence of who we are.
Thank you so much for sharing this, because I've seen this in a conversation with a lot of people, whether it's my clients or friends or family members, when they say they struggle with self-love. And I always explain to them, similar to what you say, you have the capacity to love, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to love someone else. And self-love is not about learning to love ourselves, but remembering who we are.
Yeah, it's more like recognizing
Yes.
love is already there. Yeah, there isn't anything for you to do. Oftentimes, when we say, "Oh, we have to love ourselves," I'm trying to love myself. There's a trying, element.
Yes.
And as soon as you're trying something, there's a distance between me here and trying to get there. Trying to love myself. But the thing is, you just have to simply recognize what is already there. Whenever we look at, let's say, children playing outside, yeah. I don't have any child, but whenever I see them playing outside, there's so much love that I feel. This love is already there. It's not as though I have to manufacture it. It's always naturally there. It's just that our tendency to for our mind to go out, to attaching ourselves to an object, and while thinking that it is the object that's giving me the love, and that's not true.
I wonder, what do you think could help people to switch or move from the outward attached love to the inward being, or just simply actually allowing?
That's excellent questions. I think if you want to practice something, to recognize what you already have. And one good way is practicing gratitude. Yeah, because usually when we are looking for love or looking for happiness, there is a subtle resistance to what is. And we are resisting while thinking that what I have right now is not it. It has to be something better out there, something much, I don't know, nicer and bigger and more successful, or something other than right now what I have. While imagining this, there is always lacking feeling of absence. Yeah, this very feeling of absence is creating suffering. So, in order to reduce the psychological resistance to what is, we can recognize a lot of gratitude in our lives. Yeah, there are so many things to be grateful for. We don't have to do something special to be able to obtain gratitude. Instead, we just simply recognize what is already there. So we can recognize the blessing of relatively good health in our body. And we can recognize beautiful weather, how wonderful it is. We can recognize nice fresh food that we can have. It's like little things that make us feel we are not alone. The universe is supporting us. We are not independent, separate being. Instead, the whole universe is benevolent and it is lovingly supporting us.
I am a big believer and a big fan of gratitude practice. And the reason why I also like to call it practice is because it is a muscle to train. Of course it is a feeling, but I also think it's a certain outlook that we train ourselves to have, that even in difficult times, even when the body's aching, or even when we're sick, or even if someone has passed away, that we can still recognize certain things. For example, it is, okay, today everything feels heavy because someone died in the case of this woman, but it's a miracle I still get to breathe. I still get to be alive. Or I have, whilst others don't have this, I have a safe home where I can wake up. And one thing that really helps me is when I feel a resistance to what is, and when I feel on days, oh my God, today it's really hard to be grateful, I write a gratitude note to people or also animals that I love, because it's such a heart opening practice. And I feel like this flow throughout me is much more happening. And then I'm back in my flow of like, okay, there are actually people and things that I can be grateful for.
Yeah, absolutely. It is mind's tendency to go away, run away from what is. Yeah. So I think it takes some forms of practice.
100%.
Yeah. But then, notice that what you said, recognition, it is just something that we have to recognize what we already have. We don't have to try to manufacture, things to be grateful for. It is already there. We just simply have to relax and take a deep breath and just notice what is already there.
It's definitely a choice. For me, gratitude is an attitude that we choose 100%. You just mentioned the tendency to run away. You also wrote something beautiful in that book, and it says, what makes music beautiful is the distance between one note and another. What makes speech eloquent is the appropriate pause between words. From time to time, we should take a breath and notice the silence between sounds. Can we talk about why people tend to be terrified of stillness and why we come up with all sorts of mechanisms to be busy, whether it's like overworking or like scrolling on Instagram or constantly socializing? Like, why are we so scared, and why is our tendency to run away from stillness?
I think because we human beings, if we are not awakened to our true nature, which is freedom, love, and abundance, our default setting is more like inadequacy or scarcity. Yeah. So what happened is I feel quite, uneasy. I feel like I am lacking something. I am not good enough. So when I'm sitting there alone, I feel like I have to do something to make me feel good, or I have to distract myself because my default setting is that of lack. It's not. I'm not enough, basically. So we also terrified of the silent, peacefulness, because we either equate that as boredom, or or some kind of things will not go well. So anxiety builds up. Again, our like default setting when it comes to relating to our future, it tends to be that of anxiety. The fear. We cannot control, and therefore I may run into problems. Things like that. But that's not true. Think about how amazing things can unfold in our lives. It's just that from our ego's perspective, because we want to control everything while imagining that we live as a separate entity apart from the rest of the world, and the world outside is just a material world, and it's not benevolent. It is just cold and zero-sum game, and therefore I have to manage everything, control everything to survive. But that's not the case. The reality is we are all interconnected, and I think we are here on earth to learn a lesson. Not necessarily to feel a lot of pleasure and happiness, but I think we chose this very particular school called Earth, which is a very challenging school, I have to say, yeah, in this school, so that we have to evolve, spiritually we evolve. We learn to loosen, instead of tense up, always trying to live our life, based on our ego. And we begin to rise above our ego and see the beautiful, our true nature, and that inherent freedom we already have.
What do you think is one of your life lessons to learn?
Excellent questions. Yeah. For me, it has to do with abundance. because when I was young, we grew up in a very poor family. Yeah. So because we grew up in a very poor family, I imagine that I am not valued because my family is poor. You see what I mean? I felt that I am not important. I
Wow.
noticed that people didn't treat my parents, nicely because they didn't have money. And so I felt, as I'm the son of my parents, I am not as important. I can be disregarded. That kind of feeling. So for me, the abundance was a big, issue. So my parents, especially my father, he inherited this mindset of scarcity because he grew up during the Korean War. And during the wartime, there was no food, no shoes, nothing, So also he had a lots of siblings. And because of it, he always had to compete. And so it was very difficult for him. And I subconsciously inherit that mindset. So I imagine, just like my father did, we have to compete to survive. But as I was awakening to my own, true nature, my true nature is actually abundance. What do I mean by abundance here? We imagine that we live within the skin boundary, and then what's outside of skin boundary is not me. Uh, but when you actually, realize uh, everything that you see and feel and hear, it can be known to your mind. In other words, we assume that our mind is also limited, by my skin boundary. Yeah. However, if you observe it, everything can be known because there is a mind. You know, because there's a mind, and which means everything that you see and feel is known to your mind. What that also means is, if you look at it very closely, it means that everything that you see and feel and hear, it is included in your mind.
Thank you so much also for sharing your background with your family. I think it's so interesting once we discover or uncover our generational patterns and how they have been passed on and how they still influence us, and also how we can break free of that, because I think any generation has the opportunity to break certain patterns and also implement patterns that are healthier for us. And I love that you are implementing the practice of abundance and break certain chains that have been there for generations, even, of course, if it was reasonable. And it's very interesting what you said about the mind, and also how, do I understand correctly, it's more like how everything is connected with one another?
Yes, everything is connected, included in our mind, So we often imagine that my mind is inside my head and the world is out there. But if you actually practice, you realize that everything that you see and feel, it's included in your mind. The whole universe is included in your mind. So, like, maybe another way of saying is, my Buddhist teacher often say that, oh, you don't need to own Picasso. When you go to, Museum of Modern Art and look at Picasso, that's yours, for you to enjoy.
I love this.
Yes. You don't need to
Yes.
own it. If you were to own it, it's so troublesome. You'll be so afraid of being stolen. You have to get an insurance. It just, when you go on a vacation, you worry that, what if, somebody breaks into my home. So it's much better that Picasso is in the museum. Yeah, you can go and enjoy anytime, right? So the life is abundant in that way. Rather than thinking about only in terms of ownership, yeah, if you can see the beauty of our nature, all those people that I get to meet, all this opportunity that's keep, offering to me, if we can just open to it and feel gratitude, then you'll see that, life is really, truly abundant. And they're trying to give you so many new opportunities. And if we can just stay in this high frequency of gratitude and love, then guess what? You just keep coming. Keep coming at you.
And what part or what role does meditation play in this high frequency abundant state?
I think meditation isn't so much to get somewhere, that is to feel better or feel calmer. Yeah, it is actually the other way around. That is to be here. You see what I mean? Rather than I don't like what I have right now, whether it's anxiety or whatever that is, and meditation becomes a means to escape it, means to transform it. Yeah. I think there's some, value in this way of thinking and actually practicing meditation to change the current state. But the higher forms of meditation, for me, is allowing it. You
Embracing what
allow
is.
it. Yeah. Let it be. Yeah, let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be. Allow it, allow it, allow it. No resistance, no resistance. Because the cause of suffering is the resistance. Not so much the very things that is happening around you. Because even if you are in heaven, yeah, everything is perfect, beautiful. Our body is light and happy, and everything is abundant. But if you are subtly resisting to what is given and saying, "Oh, this is just too perfect, and therefore this is a problem." Yeah, too good. I don't like it because it's too good. I don't like it because it's too perfect. Then what? It's not heaven anymore. So it is our relationship to what is that dictates the state of our mind, not necessarily the object, situation, or people, but how we respond to those object, situation, and people. If we were to respond it usually in the forms of resistance, then there is suffering.
One of the quotes that really changed my life, and I would say someone shared that with me maybe in my early 20s, is life is not what is happening to you, but how you respond to it. Pretty much what you said. And I think a really great example also when it comes to resistance and how it actually worsens our suffering is grief. Like grief, of course, can be a very lonely, exhausting, painful journey. But what makes it way more painful and way lonelier and way more exhausting is our resistance to feeling that pain.
Yes.
And we use all this energy to resisting, and then actually we don't have any energy anymore to process the feelings. So I think that's really a great reminder is that like our biggest suffering doesn't come from what is, but our fighting and trying to have the reins really strongly in our hands. Can we talk a little bit about meditation and like, what do you recommend people to have a more consistent meditation practice?
Maybe initially it will be helpful to commit to a sitting and just observing, sensation in your body, especially when you are taking a deep breath, coming in and out and in and out. But ultimately, what you want to do is become mindful of your thoughts or emotion or bodily sensations, rather than identifying yourself with those thoughts or emotions or bodily sensations, you can observe them, which means that which you are observing is not you, because there is something else, I, that is observing them. You see? So we often identify ourselves with our thoughts or emotions, feeling, or bodily sensations. But there is something else besides those objects, that is thoughts, emotions, and sensations, that is quietly witnessing, observing them, rise and disappearance of them. So instead of just being so obsessed with your thoughts or emotions, see if we can take a step back and observe them as though you're observing passing clouds. Clouds can pass and rise and disappear, rise and disappears. So we can just let them come in and just disappear. I was in Indonesia, a couple of days ago, and I was giving a book tour, so to speak, and it was very interesting because there were a number of things that happened to me that whenever I feel a little bit uneasy or unhappy, I just pause and look at what that is. What is it? For example, I was in this. There was a breakfast buffet, and I was in line to receive like a scrambled egg or something, and then there was a person behind me. Instead of lining up, he went around and
skip the
talked
line.
to the skip the line and talked to the chef what he wanted in Indonesian language, and lo and behold, and the chef gave the egg to him first. So I was a little bit annoyed and upset, and this became an opportunity rather than just identifying myself with those feeling angry or feeling hurt. I can just step back and look, hey, what's happening? Why am I upset? It's not like I need to go somewhere very quickly. I have a lot of time. I had at least 2 hours, right? Why couldn't I just let him, have 2 minutes? I will get eggs maybe a couple of 2 or 3 minutes later, and that's perfectly fine, right? But I was not fine, and I was kind of upset, and I tried to see why I feel this way, right? And then I go deeper and deeper, and then I realized that what that trigger meant was that this feeling, what I just said earlier, that is, I am not important, like sort of like long held belief from my childhood. I am not valued. I am not important. Therefore, I can be ignored because I am poor. You see what I mean? So then I pause and ask, hey, Haemin, are you really not important? Are you really not worthy? Yeah. And then the answer was, of course not. I am worthy. I am important, just like everybody else in the world. Everyone is worthy and everyone is important, right? So the validity of my belief that I am not important, it's false. It's not true. Yeah. So from that realization, immediately my tense shoulder became relaxed. I can breathe deeply and say, "Oh, okay, I can be gracious. Let him have it." I will give you egg. I will give you egg. I have plenty of time. Because this is also assumption that we don't have enough time. Like it has to do with abundance. Feeling that we have to chase, always run, because there is a deep held belief that the status quo is not good. We have to go somewhere, be somewhere. But that's not true. Life is abundant and life is love. Yeah.
First of all, I want to say, I think it's one of the biggest gifts we can offer ourselves is having this inner work where we know our limiting beliefs. Also, when they knock at our door in the most dressed up different forms and shades and colors, where we actually would say, at first, oh, why do I get angry at something or upset at something so small? And I personally believe when people get down to that root where what it actually is representing, in that moment, we have so much more freedom in our life because we're not like the victim to what things are happening on the outside when someone is like cutting our way when we're driving or when someone is late, or as you said, someone is skipping the line. Like we get so much more freedom because we're like, oh, I'm not like reacting like this because of the person skipping the line or because someone's cutting my way. No, it's like the deep-seated wound that I used to have, which just dresses up as a different situation today.
Absolutely, yeah. I was in the airport flying from Jakarta to another city in Indonesia, and then there was a man right in front of me. And when it became his turn to put his luggage to be scanned by X-ray, he was just doing it very slowly. Yeah, and as the author of the things you can see only when you slow down, rather than feeling relaxed, I was like, very typical Korean. That is, oh, how come this person is not fast? And so I was a little bit annoyed, and as I was feeling like annoyed, and I noticed that, oh, I'm being annoyed. Yeah, why can't I just relax? So I just take a deep breath and then, okay, let him have some time. It's not like I'm late. I still had 1 hour to kill, basically, right? So, as he was finishing up, and then I went through that, X-ray, one of this big, huge machine, and to later retrieve my bags, I got to see his face for the first time, because before I only saw from the behind. And as I was looking at him, and I just realized that he was blind. He couldn't see a thing, and therefore he was doing things very, very slowly, right? At that moment, all of my, oh, maybe he's doing things, slowly, intentionally, or all this blaming, all this instantly disappeared. Right? And yeah, instead we have this very like a loving energy. I wish he's fine. I hope. I feel grateful that he was able to go through without any problems, and I wish him really well. You know what I'm saying. So how many times we take things so personally? That is, oh, 100%. This person is doing it. Yeah, this person is doing things intentionally, to make me feel bad, like taking things so personally. But it simply is not true.
Thank you so much for sharing this. I love how you say, like, we take things very personal, and that just comes down to, like, it's really good to not believe that we're the center of the universe and everything is like happening because of us. And also, like, what really helps me on a day-to-day basis in situations like this is to come from a place of love. So I don't even try to understand why the person does things slow or fast, because also that's just my perception. The next person might think he does it really fast.
Right.
But I like knowing that we can love the next person or the situation without understanding. I think that's such a beautiful realization to, like, I don't need to understand you. I don't need to know why you're doing things the way you're doing it, but I can just love. And I think a form of love is just acceptance. It's also a certain way of patience. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, just imagine that the person who's bothering me, like, either in the train or airplane, like some children's making a big noise inside the airplane or inside the train, instead of feeling bothered, how come this person is making me feel unhappy? Or,
Yeah.
just shift it slightly and imagine that that person, the mother of the children or the child, is actually my sister. Yeah, my sister is going through this, or my daughter is going through this, my granddaughter is going through this. Then you all of a sudden have lots of compassion and understanding, right?
Compassion is really good way of putting it.
Absolutely.
Everything you describe, it just is a perfect way to start with your new book, because it's called When Things Don't Go Your Way. There was so much I loved, but could you, for the people who haven't had the chance to read it yet, what inspired you to write it? And also, what is your hope that people take away from it?
Whenever we go through difficult life situation, very challenging situations, when you are in the middle of it, you begin to feel, why is this happening to me? This feeling of victimhood, the victim mindset, and then wanted to blame everybody for making me feel this way. But the truth is, the universe is offering us this incredible opportunity for us to grow. So this is the chance. This is why we are here. This is the moment of truth. And can we rise above? Can we go see the self-imposed limitations? It is actually just self-imposed. It was never there, from the beginning. So for me, I had some difficult time, a couple of years ago, and one of my fear ever since I was young was the fear of abandonment. I was afraid that I will be abandoned, and then later I realized that it has something to do with the fact that I lost my mother in a big open market when I was very young. And I was just frantically looking for my mom. And that very traumatic experience, like I had it with me, but it was so painful that I blocked it. And I thought that I never had that before. And yet, whatever that's in my subconscious or unconsciousness that is ruling my life, that is, I really try not to be abandoned. and as we are resisting, that which we resist persists. So ultimately, I had this experience of feeling like I was abandoned by my own fan, by my own people who have read my books, especially in Korea. But then I realized that my true nature cannot be abandoned.
Yeah.
Right. I am always here. Wherever you go, there you are. You are always here. You cannot be abandoned. And also, inner work that I did. What I did was I put up my childhood photo on my cell phone. And then, I just look at myself when I was 4, like when around the time I was separated from my mother in the big open market. I give him the very message that little boy wanted to hear. So I tell him that you will always be, right next to me. I will never abandon you. You are safe. You are always protected, and I love you. And regardless of who you are, who you become, I love you for who you are. So I think we can offer that which we are seeking from outside and from other people, and redirect it to ourselves. And only then we can find peace. If we can if we just look for love from outside source, we are putting ourselves in a very insecure and vulnerable situations, constantly, seeking their approval. And if you don't have it, then you feel very anxious and angry. But I think whatever that you want to receive, you can actually give it to yourself. And in fact, you can just recognize it is already there.
Already there. I love that you put your childhood picture on your screensaver. I remember when I was like around 18 or 19, I wrote a letter to my younger self, like everything, that I'm sorry that this inner child like had to go through that, or also things I thought and said about myself throughout my teenage years. And it was amazing because I read it out loud in front of the mirror to myself. And I also did some tapping, emotional freedom technique. And I started crying because I felt so much relief. And I really felt, wow, that's really what I needed to hear. And I think when we spend some time to give ourselves the love that we are seeking, it's so healing. And it's also not just healing for ourselves, but for all our relationships, because we don't put the pressure on others to fill up our cup.
Right. And then it's always game of, I've done this. How come you didn't do it for me?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, there's always arguments and imagining that the reason why I'm unhappy is because of that person.
Yes.
Yeah, but the truth is, it's the perception of that person is bothering me, not that person.
100%. And I want to go into one part that you wrote in the book, because it is so, the way you write is very modern. Like you just nail it. And you wrote about, perhaps we are lonely because we expect too much from a single friend. This friend must be honest, caring, loyal, intelligent, trustworthy. They must have similar hobbies, living standards, political views. So no wonder we feel lonely. If there's one area in which this friend is a good fit for us, we should meet that friend and share the same area of interest. If we look for friends who suit us in all areas, we may remain lonely for a long time. And I love this so much because it's something that can be applied to any relationship. And I wonder, why do you think we have this tendency to look for that one best friend, for that one soulmate partner that just fulfills or potentially fulfills all the expectations? And also, I want to say an unhealthy, unrealistic expectation, because not a single person in this world can be everything for us.
Right. Especially in a romantic relationship, we imagine our partner to be not only our lover, but also best friend, like the family.
And, it's a lot.
Like it's
a full-time job.
Right. It's exhausting, right? So rather than expecting one person to give everything that we are looking for, I think we should look for multiple friends and families and community, and to be able to fulfill some of the area that I feel lacking. So I would say that if we like for example, I have a friend whose political view is quite different than my view.
I'm laughing because I'm just thinking, I feel like right now most of us have that one friend, especially in the US.
Right. But he loves to, do hiking, and I do too, right? And then he's very good at bringing food whenever we go to hike. So all I have to do is just bring some drinks whereas he will bring food. So, and oftentimes he's just like me. He's freelancer, so he doesn't have to work from 9 to 5. Yeah, so like we get to meet and just enjoy our hike and share food together. We don't have to,
Talk
become our
about the
soulmate.
political.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Right. And I think we can have, multiple different friends. And another thing is, as I was finishing up PhD, I remember back in Princeton, New Jersey, one of my closest friends actually got tenure track job in Australia. Yeah. And I used to, hang out with my friend all the time. Yeah. So I was really sad that I lost my best friend. But then, within 6 months or so, I found another best friend. Yeah. Like universe is so mysterious because when one door is closed, another one really opens. So I begin to have deep, trust in the universe that whatever I need, this benevolent universe will deliver to me as I am having more and more trust.
My life mantra is life is my friend.
Absolutely.
So whenever, and that doesn't mean that everything is always like great, but it means also when life is tough, it makes sure we meet the right people, we read the right books, listen to the right podcast, have that one song that gives us hope, that gives us strength, that gives us the resilience to push through.
Absolutely. I don't know how many people who came up to me after my talk, tears in their eyes, and say that I ran into your book and it was in the darkest hour. It gave me so much, courage and strength, and I really feel grateful. And I was thinking to myself, when I wrote my book, I never thought about somebody in Indonesia, in university, students would read it and feel so much, encouragement. So it's like universe is working in a very mysterious way. Like you said, maybe there is some, angelic beings. I don't know. They're always guiding us, and just to make sure that when you are thinking of unthinkable thing, then that's when they intervene. Maybe hey, listen to this song, or hey, listen to this podcast. Hey, read this book. So that we can gently realign with our purpose in this life. That is to grow and evolve and learn and to realize our true nature, which is freedom, love, and abundance.
And I think one of the guides we get along the way are also animals. They teach us so much about ourselves, about our purpose, on how to love, and so many other things. I want to know from a Buddhist point of view, what's the role of animals, and also how can we cultivate more compassion towards them as they offer us all the compassion they have?
I think they are like a family member to a certain degree.
Oh, 100%. Right? They are family, 100%.
My friend, he told me discreetly that when
discreetly we only share it on the podcast.
Because I'm not going to reveal his name, so I think it's fine.
Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. I know.
Right. He said that he didn't, he wasn't that sad when his father passed away. But when his dog, died, he was really, really suffering from the depressions and loss. Yeah. So because we've been giving so much, love and care to our pet, And when there is, separation between me and the dog, then it creates, incredible amount of suffering too. So I think in Buddhist world, we can reincarnate in a different format. Yeah, we can be reincarnated as an animal, or we can be reincarnated as heavenly beings, and all of that is possible. So, who's to say that our the dog that we have, was not our family member in our previous life?
I even think it can happen that it's like they reincarnate while we are here. Like, for example, our dog Felix now, I am so certain that he used to be my very first dog. Like, they even have certain things in common. Like, and I think there's even like a movie, it's called A Dog's Purpose. And it's about like how the same soul comes back as a different dog and another dog and another dog. And the full circle is it comes back to the same person. And I find that, like, for me, I think it's such a beautiful belief because it doesn't make it easier when they have to go. But I feel like it helps us with the grief because we know there's something we don't need to say goodbye to. It's our love and the soul connection, because that doesn't die.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's always connections between, whether it's your mother who just passed away or a dog. We can feel it, how much we have changed. Like some people said that whenever I talk, sometimes I realize I talk like my mother. And at that moment, I realize my mom is alive through me.
Yes.
Yeah. Any habit that we have, maybe the amount of love that I share with my dog, how much it has transformed me. Yeah, make me feel more mature and loving. And whenever we feel that love, then the dog is alive through us. And also the connection that we have, just because the water it changed the format from ice to the water and water to the cloud, it doesn't mean that it disappeared. The connection is still there. Yeah. So if in Buddhist traditions, if we pray for them, actually they can hear, they can receive our prayer because they are in a much subtler state than our physical heavy body. So it's also, if you want to pray for their well-being, you can do that. And also I recommend that people can donate the money in their name and for the cause they would feel very much like us to support. Then the love continues.
I love this. That was actually my next question. If there are any special blessings, prayers, rituals people can engage with their animals, whether they're alive or if they have passed.
Any special ritual or?
Yeah, I was like, you already mentioned that we can pray for an animal that passed away, or we can also donate money in their name. And I was wondering if there are any other rituals that we can do together, even with animals that are still alive, like Buddhist practices.
I think, like one of the reasons why I think about my friend, who was not as sad, when it comes to death of his own father, but when it comes to our own dog, there's a greater sadness. It's because we receive love from our parents, whereas we were giving a lot of love to our dog. And that's why the fact that we can no longer give our love to our pets, that becomes that's the reason why we are so sad. If we can just have a new dog, the same love that we felt for our previous dog. Yeah. And then with that love, here's another chance that you can actually cultivate. It'll be kind of, you'll not necessarily be the same because it's a different dog, different character, right? But you will nevertheless, cultivate this, love relationships. And as you do that, you can see how much you are better off right now. Because I had previous dog, in a way, through that experience, while having my new dog, this experience is still ongoing, through that, continuous love that we feel.
My belief is that when an animal passes away, that they already pick a new one for us, and also that they prepare that animal, like they give them instructions and tell them what we need. And then this animal like comes into our life so we can open our hearts again and like let the love flow, like both outward and inward.
Right. For many people, we learn unconditional love, through having a dog or cat,
100%.
Yes. So they're our teachers in a way. Yeah. So, we can have many different forms of teacher. It doesn't have to be, university or in school. It can be from our enemies, from our competitors,
Yes.
or frenemy. Frenemy? Is it frenemy?
Frenemy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So we learn, as we are willing to this mindset of, I don't know, but there is something to be learned, while we are going through our human experience. Then there's maturity, there's a beauty in it. Even in the loss, the experience of loss, there's so much beauty, right? It is love that is continuing. And so like grief is another way of loving them.
I always say grief is the sign that we got to experience one of the biggest gifts in life, and that's love. So grief is a privilege as well. It's not just pain, but also privilege.
Absolutely, yeah. If we can just bring that not just to our dog, but also broken relationship.
Yes, to humans.
Yes. Although we are here, separating, I'm grateful to you because I learned so much. And so there's no bitterness and there's so much anger. But just different pathway. We are drifting apart and without so much of resentment. Yeah, that would be beautiful.
On this happy note, I have one last question, please. So in Buddhism, each year has a certain animal like symbol, and 2025 is the snake. Can you tell us what that means and how we can hone these qualities for our year and our life?
Actually, that's not really Buddhism. Maybe that's Chinese zodiac that you see in Chinese restaurant.
Oh, really? But, I thought... Yeah. Okay, yeah. So there is nothing like this in Buddhism?
Not so much, yeah. Instead, but this is what I maybe will say, that is, rather than just imagining that, it is the world or my partner or my company, they have to change, then maybe we can, by imagining that, the real change have to occur in the behavior of my partner or, company or society. We are just giving our power away to them and hoping that they will change so that I feel better. And if this were to occur, then we are in a very vulnerable positions, and we just have to wait, for them to change. But the chance is very low. They will be unlikely to change, at least not to the speed that we like. So rather than just waiting for them to change, we can turn around and reclaim the power. That is, maybe it's not necessarily them. It is my perception of them. That is, so long as I think that I am the victim, because of this situation, then I will have very unhappy life. But if I just turn it around and realize that I can actually change my perceptions, rather than thinking that my subjective condition has to be met in order for me to be happy, we can shift our attitude to gratitude and beginning to see a lot of blessings in our lives. And once we do that, it might be very hard in the beginning, However, if we just can be courageous to write down like 3 grateful things, right before you go to sleep, or send a text message to your gratitude buddy, or take a photo of the moment that you feel very grateful for and share it with your other friends instead of trying to showing it off something. Then you realize, a lot of new opportunities is coming to your way, completely unexpected. And you begin to feel that life is very abundant, and they're trying very hard to bless me, if I do not resist, what is right here, right now.
It's very beautiful how our conversation took a full circle, where you said in the beginning you were looking for the fault on the outside and also the happiness on the outside. And it's important to look within and also to practice gratitude. And this being said, I'm very, very grateful for your time today, for sharing your wisdom, your insight, and also that you made it really funny. And I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did.
I also enjoyed it immensely, and thank you so much for this opportunity, Sarah. And wherever you go, you included, our listener, please be peaceful. May you be peaceful. May you be protected, and may you be loved, and may you be happy. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's a wrap for today, everyone. If you loved this conversation as much as we did, please share it with your family, with your friends, anyone you think could benefit with these amazing insights, and anyone you are grateful for.
And we will be back on January 8th. We're taking 2 weeks off to spend time with our families, to recharge, and to be ready for 2025, because we have so many amazing new guests lined up, and we can't wait to share all these interviews with you. And we hope that 2025 is going to treat you well, is going to bring you anything that your heart desires, and that you are also filled with the strength and the trust that you need. And there will be lots of health and joy and love and excitement. And also that we have lots of moments on this podcast together. And stay tuned, because there will be also quite a few news coming in the new year, and it will be really amazing. So please stay safe, stay healthy, and we see you on January 8th.